No. Or at least, I don't really think so. The thing is, with picking up Snax is a player that plays a very different role than Hooksy, and he calls a slightly different style than Hooksy, so you can't really tell exactly. It's not a one-for-one slot in. In theory, he's a slightly better fragger than Hooksy, but he's also in a lot better positions than Hooksy, so one-for-one, I'm not 100% convinced, and I'm going to use this as a bit of a test to see what does his aim actually look like, because if his aim is quite a bit better than Hooksy, then it can definitely make a massive difference. But now we have this other question of mark of how is Malbs going to do? How is Hunter going to do? How is everyone going to do with the role changes? And I'm sure we're confident that m0NESY, that is a nice shot from Snax, all right. We're confident that m0NESY is going to maintain his level, but I'm a little less confident in Malbs changing his roles and Hunter changing his roles, because I actually took quite a bit of time here, and I want to show you, this will be part of my argument. So the reason I haven't posted on here in a couple days is because I was making this spreadsheet manually. And if we look at it, Hooksy, gun versus gun rounds, is actually just slightly below Snax. He didn't eco hunt. And if you look at, let's say, Hunter, he's actually in the bottom half of, he's below 1 KD, and he's just not getting a lot of kills in general on gun versus gun rounds. And so the question really remains, how good is their fragging, even with what is technically an upgrade? But really what I wanted to look at in this demo is, what does Snax's aim look like? Does he just look like he's probably going to perform a bit better? Because even if he's only slightly ahead on those gun versus gun rounds, that's not everything. Hooksy did have problems on anti-ecos in general. And what does his calling look like? Now, unfortunately, Inferno, which is one of G2's mainstay maps, not really a map that Snax is comfortable on necessarily, or it doesn't seem like it from Gamer Legion. And we're also looking at a team that is at a much different level than G2 were at. This is a top 20, top 30 type team versus G2. So it's going to make a big difference. I think everyone's probably of the opinion that Snax is gonna, he's gonna take a lot of the bitch rolls, so he's probably gonna lose out some of his fragging as well. But you may be able to extrapolate a little bit just from the aim. The previous round, I mean, he's not really expected to win that gunfight in CT spawn, so I can't really blame him for that. Pistol round, he hit a relatively nice shot, and here it looks like he's just gonna end up having to save. So not really much to say. And this is, of course, B on Mirage. So how much are we really going to learn out of that? Probably not that much. Although missing the mid-nade is not a great sign. But, it happens to everyone. CT side, so the IGL, of course, matters on CT side. He's going to be calling some rotations. He's going to be, he's going to be impacting the gameplay a lot. But individuals have slightly more control on CT side specifically, and the coach is as well. Just the general philosophy is going to be held out. So I actually do really like this rotate back around. So a couple of players from Gamer Legion actually just got spotted out in jungle. They decide to rotate their way back around, and Snax isn't going to be the first one out. He gets a very nice trade onto Mighty Max, and then doesn't really whiff on the second shot either. So I have to say, so far in this demo, although Endpoint is a top 50 team, not, when we're looking at Hooksy doing poorly, you can tell his aim is not very good against everyone, right? But against like top 50 teams, he does okay, right? It's not like he shits the bed against top 50 teams. It is a different level of opposition that he struggles against. Snax is playing fairly aggressive with this B hold, actually. Jumping up here consistently is not something you see from everyone. And he does throw his smoke a lot early, which you'll see a lot of teams don't do that often anymore. I'd pull up the stats, but I'd have to maybe I'll overlay it. I'd have to upload the demos again. A lot of teams aren't throwing that smoke right away anymore, and holding on to it instead, because teams would just start coming back B late, and you wouldn't have a smoke, and it was just causing problems, right? I think that's the theory behind it, or at least that's my guess. But anyways, they lost a player. He pivoted over to mid, which is something you'll see a lot. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, the reason that you don't necessarily need to be on B at all times is because this player has to make noise jumping down, and then he has to full commit. So you can definitely, as Snax, leave the B apps a little bit on its own and pivot over to cat. You'll see a lot of really good teams do that very often. Well, very often, maybe like 20 or 30% of the time or something when things go wrong in middle especially. All right, opening up with basically the same molly every round. You'll see a lot of teams love that molly. They love that nade as well because if you throw it right, it just barely gets people around the corner. But I mean, this is why comparing just like kills per round statistics is pretty much useless because you're looking at Snax holding B, and he kind of counterintuitively, your kills per round will go up if you play worse because your opponents will be like, all right, well, we can go B then. And they'll start going B, and you'll get more kills, but you'll also lose your team more rounds. So it can actually be kind of misleading when you look at those types of stats if you don't actually think about the roles as well. So retake 2v3. Unfortunate. I mean, arguably he could have dropped when he turned from that flash, or if you see like the best of the best players, I'm comparing this to like 2013 CS, but if you play like a Silver, for example, right? They see a flash and they turn around for the whole 2 seconds, right? But then if you look at like, sometimes you see Nico dodge a flash and he like stares at it. He like stares at the angle, turns for a quarter of a second and turns straight back, right? So that doesn't, you minimize the amount of time that your opponent has where your back is turned, or drop down. I'm not going to say it's a mistake, but maybe you wouldn't probably see any other IGLs do that any differently. Maybe you would see Nico do that slightly differently. Maybe. I'm adding the maybe, guys. Oh my god. Why is that upper looking the wrong direction? Okay. I mean, yeah. You can't really blame that on... I mean, you peek window, you're never expecting to see an opera looking the opposite direction, okay? That's just... He was also getting unpeaked at the same time. That's just such a weird situation to be in. Alright, flash over mid. Yeah, all normal. He's actually going to rotate off of B. Okay. Entirely. They must have... Oh, there's smokes thrown A? No, there's only one smoke. Do they have, like, some counter strat they're working on? Like, they know this smoke means they're going A or something? A bit odd. Then, yeah, I mean, this is why holding onto the smoke makes sense, because look what they've done, right? They've just walked back B late. It's not like they were ready for it. And then you toss the smoke down here, which is fantastic. You just try and buy as much time as possible. Can't get a kill. Can't really blame him too much for that either, though. The rotate was a bit odd. Maybe I missed something. Like there was an A site exec or something. Or did they see the bomb? No, the bomb was down outside B. Can tell me in the comments if I missed something. That rotate was a bit weird. But not getting a kill once they came back is fine. I think he might have been... Yeah, he was trying to delay, stay alive as long as possible for the rotate. But the problem is the rotate just looks like it was just too far away to actually have any chance of getting there in time. In which case, he might have been benefited just by trying to frag out. But I mean, the best he's going to get there is maybe 2, and then his team is still not in a great spot anyways. And the T's take full site control. Alright, I mean, he's just got a Zeus here. I'm just going to fast forward this one. He gets an AK, okay. Respect. Respect. Holds onto the AK. You would never see Hooksy doing that, alright? As much as anyone can hate on Hooksy, you would never see Hooksy doing that. Hooksy would drop that AK to Nico in a fraction of a second, and we wouldn't see him with it, and it would be sad. But it would be reality. One of the things is, getting aggressive in B apartments. So one of the problems that you have is that when you look at players that just aren't up to the right caliber for their opposition, they get too scared to go for these aggressive types of plays because they get punished for it too often when they do so. And they don't want to put their team in situations, and I feel like this is true of Nexa and Hooksy both to some extent. They don't want to put their team in positions where you have Nico, you have Monacy, you have these amazing players, and you don't want to put them in 4v5s if you can help it. So then they end up playing too passive, too scared, and they end up being exploitable because of it. And if Snax maybe kill per round wise maybe isn't a huge upgrade from Hooksy, but maybe he is in terms of his ability to win those duels when they come to him, when they're on his screen, and his ability to be confident in taking types of duels like that, that can actually make the job of Nico and Monacy drastically easier, right? So anyways, like this is the type of flank I'm talking about. Now they have to be worried about this because Snax just went for this flank. And I think he's got it. Yeah, that flank won them the round, essentially, right? And that's not something they're necessarily expecting. And if he hadn't gone for that flank, they'd probably just lose that round because they were ready for the CT play. So just a really nice play from Snax. It takes a little bit of a risk at the start, but you're only really taking that risk if you're capable and confident that you can win a duel if there is a player in there a good amount of the time, right? So it shows a level of confidence. Though again, they're playing against a certain level of opposition, and you could see him get, you know, potentially punished for that in a different situation, you know, against a higher level opposition. So again, he's going to go for the push through. This time he's just going to walk right up to a teammate. So his teammate's already there, which is great. Throws a little quick flash to help his teammate out. Crucial's going to be 1v3. He also, I believe that's his molly as well. They just mollied off jungle. And his teammate's just defusing. So yeah, Snax really isn't making any mistakes here, but it's beyond Mirage, right? The only reason I chose this was really to be looking at the T side, not the CT side. So we can just fast forward through this. Rotate into jungle is fine. You kind of need this. Could that guy see him somehow? What the hell? Maybe he just timinged it? That's crazy. 1v3. Nice shot. So Snax's aim, at least in this game, Snax's aim definitely looks on point. And I've seen the argument before, by the way. This is an argument I've seen a couple of times that the biggest, well, this was very common argument, I think, in like 2020. One of the biggest correlations between if a player is going to be able to manage at the next level, like if they can go from tier 2 to tier 1, is going to be their headshot percentage. Because, you know, if you're just shooting them quickly, maybe you won't be able to get as many kills, but you'll still be able to get some kills, right? And Snax's aim just does seem solid, right? It does seem solid. But we don't need Snax necessarily to do that well. I was really hoping to see Hooksy with a different player instead of Nexa, because you don't need an amazing individual IGL. What you need is the IGLing to be great. And a lot of people have been, honestly, I've seen a lot of people pretty high on the IGLing out of Hooksy. I'm not as sold on Hooksy's IGLing as I've seen, like, Maniac seems like he thinks the IGLing is really good. A lot of people recently have been saying Hooksy's system was really effective. I'm less sold on it than them, honestly. So I'm interested to see if Snax will add something to the team. By the way, okay, he's going to try and save dualies here. Bomb explodes, though. Gives the T's lots of extra money. Unfortunate. It still catches me off guard how far the bomb kills you from in this game. Well, I mean, I think they updated it in CSGO or whatever, but, you know, after the updates. All right, so Snax first player out, which is really what I would hope for. I think Malbs is going to end up being probably the entry, because Snax plays a lot more lurker roles when you look at his roles on T side, but you do want Snax to be able to do some entering as well and be willing to go out first and maybe get a kill, because one of the things that Hooksy did, and the reason I thought he might make sense on Liquid, although a lot of people disagree with that, is because Hooksy would go out first, right? He'd be very willing to just take the loss, take the L, and go out first. And that's what would benefit if Yakindar stopped having to go out first so often on Liquid. But I think the idea for G2 is that they want someone going out first that's slightly more likely to get a kill, which is fair, right? It's fair. It's nice when your first player out gets a kill. So maybe Snax can do that a little bit as well. And he is taking... Oh, they're canceling the round. Is any damage been taken? Some damage has been taken. Maybe they'll allow it, though. I'll just try and skip forward a little bit. All right, so basically the same thing. Smoke top mid. He does throw the molly behind the smoke, which I don't think gets thrown all the time. I think he threw the molly behind the smoke, right? Not the con molly. Doesn't get thrown all the time, but it does make this play a lot more safe and means that, you know, Snax can play here alone comfortably. Did he just miss that smoke? Snax, come on. Okay, he threw the top con smoke? All right. Okay, someone from T-spawn missed the... Missed? Was that missed? What? Oh, that was supposed to land on Cat, wasn't it? It's supposed to bounce off the... Yeah, okay. All right. So Snax moving up. Willing to take the duels. Probably should still have been ready for Connector. Because usually what happens, you see people throw the smoke, and then they're going to have this guy throw a molly, right? I don't think this guy threw a molly, did he? Maybe because he smoked off, he couldn't see the lineup for the molly. But with no molly and connector, there's not... I mean, the reason not to be in con is you can get flash, but you can still be kind of like in an angle like this, maybe. There's some angles where you can still be kind of safe if you get blind, and you'll see people playing connector quite often. So it is a bit odd that he's not clearing connector at all. Although you have to make some sacrifice. You know, you have to clear one thing, not the other. Slend had a flash. I'm not sure. He could have just flashed connector just so Snax could actually like go up cat without having to worry about it. I feel like that's a little bit odd, but what I'm guessing is that player underpass was meant to molly connector, and he didn't because he was smoked off. Like, he couldn't see into connector, and then it just got lost in the comms beyond that. It's hard to say exactly, but they do end up going back to B. And so the argument for Snax, the problem with GL, Gamer Legion, is that they've really had a lot of roster turnover recently, right? So it's hard to see exactly what Snax wants to do versus what he has to do. Like, what things can he just kind of... He's trying to get the best out of a bad situation, you know? Sometimes you might want to call something completely differently, but you're just not able to at all, right? And I think you have to give Snax a bit of a break for that, but... when people say Snax plays some star positions, this isn't like a star position, but this is something, again, you're never going to see Hooksy do, which is getting boosted. I mean, okay, someone's going to find a screenshot and say, look, this happened once. Generally, as a general rule, this is Snax getting some preferential kind of treatment in terms of his positioning. I don't think even if Hooksy was on this team, he'd be getting that, right? Because Hooksy just isn't that player, right? So I can see why there's a reasonable argument against Snax to say that, look, he might get more kills, but he's also in much better positions, and if he's gonna get the short end of the stick on G2, then he's gonna be, you know, arguably could end up being just the same as Hooksy. However, specifically aim-wise, it does seem like Snax's aim is pretty crispy. It seems like for the most part when he's dying, he's getting killed in, you know, the side. I'd say the connector thing, I think that's just a risk you take with that play. The previous connector round I thought was a little odd. I feel like you strategically shouldn't be setting yourself up for that, just kind of in my eyes. This one made a lot more sense. Although he could have come through the smoke, by the way, looking to the side because he had a teammate on cat, I think. But I think the teammate on cat went past. And I think that's just a risk of the strat, right? Like, every strat has its pros and its cons. There's no perfect strat. And so sometimes you just have to say, you know, we're going to be weak to something. I'm not a huge fan of that specific weakness, but I think I can understand exactly how that shows up. And he just goes through. Maybe they could add a flash for that, but... it's not, I don't think that one is the end of the world. So again, Snax is alone in mid, which means, you know, he's alone in mid quite often, and he must just be capable of winning some of these duels. Although, you know, Chopper's alone in mid quite often on Mirage, or on Spirit. Chopper's alone quite often on Spirit as well. Maybe they're modeling their T-sides after Spirit a little bit. Usually, yeah, I mean, this is a very similar setup to what Spirit often have. They have the Opper back here, and they have Chopper up here. Although Spirit doesn't typically throw the window flash, but I mean, a lot of teams do this. I didn't mean to say he was modeling it after Spirit. What I meant to say is a lot of teams do this. And then they're gonna have the two players coming through underpass for the double up, which means Snax just kind of just has to stay alive for the most part. He is looking for this play around the left side, but. Yeah, so what he's trying to make sure is he's trying to make sure that this guy isn't looking down underpass, looking straight down on his teammates. Could he maybe play that as the trade instead of clearing it? Because by clearing that, he's now given up this position entirely, right? And he's going to just... he's just looking to catch someone because he's giving up top mid control. And then he's got his teammate. This is really interesting. this is a really interesting kind of situation. So Slend doesn't see anything. Slend can't see anything, I think. Oh, he could, actually, if he was posted on that. He actually could see the cross, which would make a massive difference. But then the smoke is going to come down, and those players should be out underpass by this point, but they got mollied, and I think he just can't be here. I think he just can't be here. Because his teammate got mollied underpass, right? Just as they were coming out. So this smoke is down, and there is no prospect of this being a problem, because it just got mollied. So he can just be getting shot at from here. Obviously from here, but clearly he's not expecting that. Or from here, right? He's just in a massive crossfire. This just feels like... I mean, you can take risks like this. Like, if you think that... Maybe Snax thinks that Endpoint is a team that often leave mid completely empty. Maybe. Or is it that maybe what happens here is Slend actually sees this player cross, because he does molly it. It looks like he might have just seen that player cross. No, he must not have. Snax is just going to end up dying here. Oh, he sees the blood. Snax sees the blood, doesn't he? Yeah, he sees the blood here. So now they know he's crossed for sure. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that play from Snax. But not to say, like, you know, I'm not the all-knowing. It's just like, look, you've got this guy mollied off, right? So you have no potential for support in mid, right? Now there's a smoke window, which is great, but most teams recently are playing this guy very aggressively on Cat, right? And not only that, but they've been worried most of this game. They've been really worried about Connector, because it looks like Endpoint like to play aggressive in Connector. And that Connector player could just fight him, like, really easily. Anyways, so different IGLs have different kind of philosophies about this. I think a lot of IGLs do call when they're dead, but some IGLs, you know, if you've got a really good secondary IGL, it's very different calling when you're dead versus calling when you're alive. And depending on your team dynamic, maybe your team prefers to, you know, call themselves when they're alive or when you're dead. I know on teams I've been on, it was always kind of, you know, different. Sometimes could go either way. I'm imagining most pro teams probably still have the IGL call when they're dead, but I'd actually be really interested. This is a question I'd like to ask some pro players, because it just feels like the IGL should probably still be calling when they're dead. Like, it doesn't actually make that much logical sense for the IGL to stop calling when they're dead. It's even maybe easier for you to call when you're dead, right? But yeah, it goes a little bit differently. I think you definitely take your hands off a little bit more if you're dead, and your players might have reads that you're not seeing, you know? So you have to respect, like, is this his call after he's dead? The answer could be yes or no. So mid control this time, they went for Connector and window smoke instead of the top mid smoke. You want to have some slight differences in the way you take mid. You don't want to be taking it the exact same way every single time. And the molly into Connector does just straight up push them off con. The idea being that they won't be able to see the rotate. But it's clear that Endpoint was just read this play. Like, yeah. So I'm trying to think of why Endpoint stacked B this round, because I don't think they've been stacking B most of this game. And not only did they stack B, they went aggressive in their B stack, right? They missed the boost first off. Surreal just swings in. Oh, I think they're supposed to swing in together, but Sejot, someone tell me how to say this guy's name. I think this guy jumped as Surreal was jumping, so they hit each other. So I think this is maybe supposed to be a double swing where they're fighting together. Surreal just hits a nice shot, right? That's one where, like, that's why what I was talking about with Snax before, you know, would Hooksy be going for this play? Well, if Hooksy just dies when that happens, then maybe not, right? Maybe that's why he's not. But I'm thinking the previous round, Gamer Legion, they did see that there was a second player aggressive on Cat, very, like, all the way up Cat, very late in the round. Sometimes when you see that, you want to move towards this type of late, you know, delayed B hit. You put a bit of pressure on mid to draw the Cat player forward, and then you use that to attack their B player, right? Which does make often a lot of sense. But it's clear that Endpoint are just completely ready for this, right? They started the round ready for this, and then they got a kill, and they stayed ready for this. Likely because of that Connector and window smoke, you know, a hit up Cat could potentially have happened. And because they didn't start a player on cat, they kind of have to be playing this back setup pretty much the entire round. And that means that kind of just ended with them being in the perfect setup to deal with this play from Gamer Legion. I noticed, by the way, that I think Maui Snake posted that the T sides from Gamer Legion are some of the worst, I think, compared to expected and compared to their CT sides. So like the downgrade from their CT to the T in terms of win percentage. And I believe these are also, I'll try and find this and overlay it for you. I believe these are also corrected for, you know, if you play a lot of Anubis, for example, it doesn't like screw you over. But again, the argument against that, which is fair, is that, you know, Snax is playing with a roster that's consistently changing, right? And if it's not adjusted, Overpass was one of their best maps, right? So you're going to not really get too many T rounds on Overpass. And CT side can be on the IGL as well. So Snax does give his team a chance, like, it does make a very nice read here, I think, in that they had 3 on B, so he's just going to lurk his way back around over to B. The players in the apartment side are still being proactive. They're still making contact, and they're still drawing some eyes. And because of that, mid is fairly likely to be open, although you would hope that someone might be, especially sometimes it's kind of like the B players are still making contact. Why are they doing that? Well, maybe they're lurking at mid, and you can see they're clearly ready for this. But you have Crucial, who's I thought you have Sejot, who was lit. So actually, Gamer Legion are in a decent spot here if Snax can make his way all the way up cat, which he does. And now with him starting to make contact, he's actually in a pretty good situation. Oh, there's the spot out, and then he's going to try and accelerate. Maybe could have got that kill, but it's not like a whiff to not have gotten that kill. I think the rotate back around was smart and put his team in a position to win the round. And this is the type of, I think this is the type of situation you really want Snax to be good in. These types of like, okay, we've got it to the late round where, you know, we've traded out a kill or two, we're 3v3. Can we convert this type of round? Because no matter how the round opens up, if you have players like Monacy and you have players like Nico, you can be countered at the beginning of the round. But if you have the ability to call out of that because, you know, you turn it into a 3v4 after Monacy gets a kill and you cancel the strat or something, then I think you're feeling pretty good if you have Snax that's, you know, good at going for that type of play, and he's capable of going for these types of more aggressive lurks where he knows he can actually win those duels if he gets into them. So I'm liking that type of situation. Just force the bomb plant here. Actually, kind of have a chance. Is there any utility? No utility. So they're just going to have to hit a nice shot or two. Yeah. Not a great spot to be in. I mean, Snax is kind of screwed here. Yeah, it was really... I mean, arguably there, you could even try and save, like in that situation. Maybe he's just going for the econ damage, if they have enough to buy the next round anyways, comfortably. Depending on the econ situation, I think you could decide between a save or a buy. Here, it looks close. They've all got AKs, so probably he's just trying... It's better to just go for some econ damage. Although, again, I could still see the argument for he should have just saved, because he's really never winning there. And the CTs have won a good amount of rounds in a row, but doing econ damage is never a mistake on the T side. I lean towards that more than saving the gun and having an M4 into the following round. You're going to have AKs anyways, doesn't really matter. All right, so again, they go for that pressure in middle, and then they turn that into a B hit, which is what they did. I like that he didn't call it off. You know what I mean? Like, it went wrong once. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea because of the setup that's being played, right? And lots of teams are playing this. So you put some pressure in middle. He puts some pressure in middle without giving himself the opportunity to die. Then they're going to make their way back over to B. And you have Andu going aggressive at the same time. Maybe he's trying to draw some eyes, trying to maybe, you know, make sure that no rotate back happens. But after he dies, then they have to get aggressive pretty quickly here because it's going to get kind of obvious. And they do hit a nice shot on the player jumping across or jump spotting, and they convert this round really quickly. So yeah, I like that call. That was, you know, that looks very similar to the call that they ran into a stack on. Just went right back to it. And they've been out of, like, they ran the same mid default or very similar one quite a few times earlier in the half, and a lot of the time it was Snax being completely alone top mid when he did that. And because you only show, one player worth of utility, and because he threw this molly, which you can throw from a ways back, it does actually mean that he can throw, I believe did he molly? I think he mollied as well, right? Smoke then molly. It's going to look very, very similar with nobody there. You have a timer on it, but it's going to look very similar, and that sets up these sorts of plays where you can come out ramp. Now, Mighty Max is right on the other side here. Yeah, there's Snax throwing the utility, which is probably what he's going to be doing a whole damn lot of once he gets onto G2. I'm imagining he's going to be doing that. He's not going to be getting the perfect rolls, especially because someone's going to have to take a hit, and they've got essentially 4-star players, or 4 players that want to be stars on their roster. Ends up being the bomb planner here, what you're expecting. 2v1. He does get spotted crossing, which means Crucial kind of has an idea of what to do here. But I think what he's going to do, the standard, the by the numbers play here, is let Volt make first contact and then peek off of that. Although he's actually going to go for, like, the confidence peek. I mean, this is one of the things that I talk about is, like, when people say play the bomb, they don't mean wait for the opponent to defuse. They mean play the pressure of the bomb, right? And in a situation like this, I like this play because if he died there, everyone's like, why didn't you play the bomb? He is playing the bomb. He's playing the pressure of the bomb. That the player can't sit staring at triple the entire round, right? He eventually has to move his way forward. So he goes for the jiggle, he doesn't spot him, and then he sees that his gun is, like, pointed at ramp, because that player that Crucial is probably expecting the exact setup they were in, which is ramp player makes contact and Snax swings. And you can kind of just avoid that entirely just by getting a quick jiggle and seeing what's up. They actually turned this one. They were down like 11-8, right? 11-9. So bring it back against mostly gun rounds too. Like, this isn't like a favorable situation that we're in, right? They weren't in a great spot to come back from this, because this is going to be 3 of 4 rounds will have been gun rounds. They're going, wait, is this a double op T side? This is a double op T side. I do like the idea behind this play, because the CTs have been getting a bit aggressive in apartments some of the time, and so you go for the op just to hold the angle. And if he has the AK back in spawn, that would be amazing. He does. Oh yeah, I love that play. Then that's a really cute play. It's nice. I like it. You know, if they're gonna go for that play that they've been going for a lot in the game and have been mostly getting rewarded for that, I think Endpoint have mostly been getting kills when they go for that. It makes a lot of sense to be set up with an op there and just don't give any opportunity for them to, win that fight. Timing here is a bit odd. So they want to have Slend act like he's walking out B. I mean, you can I think you can rate IGLs somewhat in an average game. How often do they go to the unstacked bomb site? Like, if you could take every IGL and take all of their games from 2024 and, like, how often do they walk into a stacked bomb site? I feel like you're probably going to find that the IGLs that you think are better walk into the stacked bomb sites the least, right? Because you're setting it up. It's not an accident, right? You can have the timings wrong, but it's generally not going to be an accident when you walk into the weaker bomb site. You probably set that up throughout the half to push your opponents into what you want, and then you convert it afterwards. And just because Crucial gets 2 kills there doesn't mean the call was bad, right? The call still made a lot of sense. You're walking into the correct position. You're walking into what you want. If he had aced there, that wouldn't have made the call bad either. They still would have walked into the preferred situation, right? And Snax does get the final kill of the game. I mean, he's not, again, this Endpoint is a top 50 team, right? So they're going to give him more opportunities to land these shots than you might expect. But are that many players going to be hitting that shot against Snax because he took maybe 2 or 3 more bullets than normal? No. Whereas if you look at Hooksy, he just individually, his aim looks a lot worse, right? He's just generally, his fragging seems to be worse, even though if you look at it statistically on gun versus gun rounds, he's very close to Snax. In fact, he's in the upper half. I'll show you guys again. I'll link this in the description, but technically he is in the upper half of IGLs in terms of gun versus gun stats. Kill per round, he's above Chopper, Kerrigan, Apex. He's below Snax by 0.01. And Shu, he's an amazing like fragger for an IGL. By the way, if you like compare him to other riflers, he's the same as Brolin, Nexa. Nexa's surprisingly high, right? But he's above Hunter, Yakindar, Floppy. He's above all of these guys, right? And he's just narrowly below. I mean, he's below Rain, Yimfat, Bit, Rob. I mean, these are like players you wouldn't expect to be anywhere close to an IGL. It's Shuhei. But regardless, Snax's aim did look really on point. His aim did look really on point. There was a couple things that I'm questioning in terms of the way they played. Maybe a couple of risks were taken. I really don't think Snax is going to be the solution. I think the Snax edition just seems a little odd. He seems kind of like a stopgap where they want a different IGL or something. And again, I know people are going to hate this, but I don't really think Hooksy had to go. Look, here's the problem. Here's the problem I have right now, and I'm going to be on. I think I'm going to talk about this a lot more in a podcast soon. If Hooksy is a good caller, I don't think his fragging was bad enough that he had to go. And I think it's almost like, is red herring the right word? I think. That Dallas win, they're talking about the vibes being so good. You know when the vibes are so good, man? It's when the vibes are amazing when you have zero pressure. And you have zero pressure when you're playing with the fucking stand-in, right? So I'm not convinced that like even I'm not convinced that if Stewie was not a stand-in, but he was their actual pickup and they picked him up for that event, I'm not convinced they would have still won that event. I'm not convinced that it was like, I don't think that was replicable. But I don't know. Do I think Snax is going to be the solution? He does seem to be a better fragger than Hooksy in general, which is going to be a good idea, but it creates this whole host of other problems. Adding in Malbs and changing a bunch of his roles, changing a bunch of different players' roles, whereas the one thing you could say Hooksy did is he allowed Nico and he allowed Monacy to, do their thing and he called around it, which can be fucking hard, by the way. I think people underrate how hard it is to have players that, have a strong voice and have a good idea what they want to do and then still being able to call a competent game around it and know when to say, yeah, go for that play, and know when sometimes you just have to say no and be like, no, we need you to do this other play because it's more important for the game. That's underrated. And you need a strong voice for that, and Snax has been around a long time. Maybe he is that strong voice, but you have to see it to believe it. So yeah, I predict, by the way, they're going to have a strong first event or two, but I think that's like the IGL hangover. I think Hooksy has set up a pretty good system for G2. The question is, after the first month and a half, how is Snax going to do? And I'm not yet convinced he's going to do better than Hooksy would have done with Malbs. If Malbs is amazing, then they're probably going to be pretty good. Because I don't think it looks like Snax is a pretty okay IGL. I don't want to say okay. He's not a bad IGL, right? Everything he's doing makes sense, which is what you expect for any pro player. Man, I'm qualifying this shit way too much. He looks like at least a competent like IGL, right? He's not doing anything crazy. He's calling, he made some good calls in that game, some very good calls, and he walked into, 3 understacked bomb sites. But if Malbs does well, then you're expecting them to do well. But if Malbs is just okay, is Snax going to be better than Hooksy? I'm not certain. I'm not convinced. Honestly, not convinced. You know who they need? Honestly, straight up. Get Glaive in this bitch. Get fucking Glaive in this bitch.